Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Fairlight Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at what I call my staple decks. By the way, you will notice that I'm surrounded by flowers, and it's because yesterday my husband came back home with all of these flowers that he just picked up. And I absolutely love the spontaneity of it all. They're really beautiful. Obviously, those flowers you find in fields. Sometimes there's also some magnolia flowers here, which I absolutely love. Magnolia is definitely my favorite tree. And some lavender as well. And I don't know what this is. But in any case, so today we are literally surrounded by flowers. So it's kind of smelling really nice in here. So what are staple decks? When we talk about staple food in a cuisine, we are looking at elements or dishes in that cuisine that most represent the spirit of that cuisine itself. It's almost as if we were telling people that the staple food of Italian cuisine is pasta, which, you know, being Italian, I'm actually okay to say that. So think of it as the decks that most represent myself. These are the decks that, being completely honest, 1000% honest, and being a tarot reader versus a tarot collector, if there was a fire, these are the ones that I would definitely make sure to save. And the reason behind it is that these are the decks that I use the most, whether it's because of my practice, you know, how I use tarot and oracle decks for myself, or whether it is because of YouTube, or whether it is because of my clients. These are definitely the decks that if I had to go a week without them, I would probably have to rebuy them one way or another. So let's have a look. So I want to start with a couple of decks that I tend to use together, and these two are the Savvy Soul Tarot by Julie Whitelish and the Outlaw Oracle by Hilary Banks Self. By the way, Hilary has just posted on her Instagram account that they have just completed another oracle deck that will be, I don't know, it's available for pre-order yet, or at least not at the time of filming, but she did say that it was going to be made available for pre-order anytime soon in her website, and I'm so very excited to have a look at that. I think it's called the Ritual Rites, but not entirely sure, but I did have a look at a couple of images. Really excited about that one. But let's talk about these two. These two really go well together. There's such an amazing friendship that has been formed between these two decks, and I am stoked to be able to show them to you. Unfortunately, the Savvy Soul Tarot is not available anymore. It was a Kickstarter from, I believe, a couple of years ago, and then I don't think there has ever been a reprint, which is really sad. But I never lose hope, you know, when it comes to some decks that go out of print, and there's a lot of people that really love them. Sometimes the creator just listen to us and they republish or they reprint, so you never know. Or, you know, lately US Games has been picking up so many indie decks and releasing them mass market that maybe it will be released mass market. I have absolutely no idea. Let's just zoom in for now. So we see less flowers and more cards. So these two are absolutely wonderful together. They really share the same kind of vibes and spirit. And I also have to say that I love working with these two together because this is the deck that I most use, unless asked otherwise, but this is what I most use when I'm doing the Wheel of the Years reading, but also the 6 months ahead readings. And because generally speaking, when I do a Wheel of the Year or a 6 months ahead reading, I also pair it up with an oracle deck. This one is the one that I love to use together with the Savvy Soul Tarot. There is, as I was saying before, there is an amazing conversation going on between these two. There is also this feeling that we are in good company. It is obviously decks that have a modern take on the RWS when it comes to the tarot deck, and also a modern take on Oracle when it comes to the Outlaw Oracle. They don't necessarily share exactly the same type of art. We're looking at you know, they're both based on photography, but there is a certain level of manipulation of photography when it comes to the rendering. I personally, when I read with these two together, I don't even notice any kind of discrepancies in the art style because the conversation flows so well that that is what I pay attention to. And it doesn't bother me at all that they're not exactly the same. And as a matter of fact, I don't think that you always need two decks to be exactly the same. Sometimes I feel that you may have two decks that come from the same creator with exactly the same style and they don't bond. I don't know if you ever had that experience, which is quite disappointing, to be honest. And sometimes you have the opposite, so two decks that come from a completely different creator, but they really have this really lovely conversation when you use them together. So the Savvy Soul Tarot and the Outlaw Oracle are the decks that really represent me, myself in my practice, and my practice towards myself and towards others as well. And if you have had a reading done by myself, you will recognize these two decks because I do often read with them. Also, if you're a member of my channel, you will definitely recognize these ones because when I do the members only readings, I often use these. Let's have a look at other decks that, as I say, I call them my staple decks because I really feel like they represent myself and my practice. And since we're talking about readings that I do, I wanted to show you this deck, which is the Cross Magic Tarot by Londa Marks. This was a deck that had been printed by US Games a few years ago, and then it went out of print, unfortunately. I believe that maybe last year, not entirely sure, but I think it was last year, there was a deck made available by someone on, was it Make Playing Cards or Game Crafters? I don't remember which one of the websites. It was completely for free, so there was no commercial operation, and I remember that this person had made it available as a file to download and to, you know, you could ask, obviously you could have put the order in for Make Playing Cards or whomever that was to have it printed and shipped to you. And I think it was also borderless, so it would have been even more amazing because imagine this deck borderless would have been really, the colors would have been really popping out of the cards. As you can see, this is a very specific deck. It's a kind of a peepish deck in the sense that obviously the minors are not fully scenic, though sometimes you do have a sense of the scene. I use this deck all the time when it comes to readings focusing on career and also financial matters, probably even more financial matters than career. By the way, can we just have a look at how beautiful this Queen of Wands is? I know that many of us, myself included, are not very comfortable with spiders, but I do recognize when they're actually kind of beautiful, and this one really is. It does remind me though of the redback spider, which is, it lives here in Australia, in Sydney, where I am. And if you don't know this about the redback spiders, yes, they are very venomous, but they're not as aggressive as funnel web spiders. They have this kind of a thunderbolt colored in red on their backs. And well, it could be also orange when they're little, when they're just not adult spiders. They are very venomous. They also live inside, sometimes inside a house. I have actually had a couple of close encounters with redbacks, and I know that it may sound crazy, but I never felt threatened because I don't know, it really feels like they don't want to attack you. They're not aggressive at all. Whereas, for example, if you find yourself in front of a funnel web spider, you should really run as fast as you can. Having said that, the close encounters with funnel webs are very rare these days. If you go bushwalking in Sydney, then and you go uncovering stones on the ground, you may find them. So going back to the deck, sorry about that tangent, but every time that I see a spider, it's a kind of a self-soothing mechanism that, you know, gets triggered because I need to talk about the spiders to just soothe myself. So this is one of the decks that I use the most when a client or when a member asks me about their career or, you know, money matters. I don't do financial focused readings, but it is what I do about those matters is I try and tackle them from the point of view of taking care of the person, of understanding what the energies are, but I obviously do not give out financial advice at all. It's not my job. But this is an incredibly powerful deck. As I said, it's not available anymore, but if you look into make playing cards, it might still be available. And it was for a very low price. I believe it was marked for just as a printing price, so very low cost, and just as the shipping, because this person didn't want to have any commercial any profit from this deck, because I also believe that it would not have been legal in that case. Obviously the copyright is held by US Games, I believe. In any case, very powerful deck. And moving on to another deck that it really feels like it's a staple deck for me. It's an oracle deck in this case, and it's the Mother Nirvana Oracle. And I realize now that I wanted to talk about it together with the Savvy Soul and the Outlaw Oracle. And the reason is because when I do those readings, so the Wheel of the Year and the 6 months ahead, I tend to use this deck as a send-off message. So if you've had one of those readings done by myself, you will remember that I use this deck for the wrap-up message or the send-off message. I believe that this deck is very conducive of a powerful message. These cards are incredibly potent, and they're also very eloquent when it comes to the connection, the combination between the images on the cards and the keywords. For example, this is kintsugi, and I always say this, if you're not familiar with this word, is an incredible concept in the Japanese art. So there is this idea of putting back together the pieces of something that has been broken and putting them back together using either gold paste or silver paste. And so something that looked like a scar is now the point of beauty of an object that finds new life. It's there is this really powerful message of rebirth that is in the concept of kintsugi. So I really like this card, but most of the time I find that I have a lot to say about all of these cards. As I was mentioning, the combination between the very evocative art style and the very eloquent keyword is a great combination, because it gives me the opportunity to give out a very powerful send-off message. Sometimes there are these cards that are a bit odd, and I believe these are sigils. I don't necessarily read them as sigils. I do look at the keywords and then I formulate my message based on the keywords. But 99% of the deck is based on, these cards. So it's actually very, very beautiful. This is by Jennifer Sudini, and I believe that she's also the author, together with others, of the Amenti Oracle, which is a very beautiful deck as well. It does differ from the Modern Nirvana slightly, but the main difference is that, and if you have it, you will remember, all of the keywords are, rather than keywords, you have messages at the bottom, and they start with an affirmation. So I am kind, I am respectful, etc. And that is also another one of the decks that I use a lot in my practice for myself and for others. But when it comes to a staple deck, this is definitely it. So the Modern Nirvana Oracle, and it's an excellent deck. It's a mass market deck, very affordable, very easy to find. So it's not an indie deck, it's not out of print. Then let's have a look at this one, because this is one of the decks that I use the most for a very simple reason. So this is the Light Seers Tarot in a tin, and the reason why it's my, let's say it's a staple deck for me, is because it is in a tin. It is one of those decks that I tend to use when people ask me for a general reading. And it's also, because it's in a tin, I tend to take it with myself when I go traveling. And so it has become one of those decks that people tend to see me using a lot. It is tiny and therefore compact. You can put it in your purse or in your backpack. It is the Light Seer, so it is very familiar to me. I do have the other full-size version of the deck, which I have used multiple times. Ironically, that one is not a staple in my collection, because when I reach for that deck, there is another deck that has come into my collection in the last couple of months that has quickly become a staple deck for me when I seek out for those specific vibes. But because I don't have the mini edition of that deck, which I will show you later, I take this one with me, you know, when I go away. So there is some kind of diversity here. I know that nowadays when we look for diversity, we have better decks than this one, I agree. But this one was the very first one that was kind of breaking up with the patterns of the decks that we've had in circulation for the last 30 years. And so in a way, it was kind of revolutionary. It was really beloved by many. And only because now we have, you know, decks that are actually more inclusive than this one, it doesn't mean that I don't, or that I dislike this one. I just really like it. I find it very easy to read, very eloquent, and also when you're reading for someone, they tend to like the imagery on this deck. But let me show you, when I talk about a very inclusive deck that I absolutely love to read with, and it's the Unfolding Path. I may have to zoom out, because as I was saying, I don't have the mini version of this or the teen version of this. I don't even know whether there is one. Maybe there is one and I just didn't pay attention, or maybe there will be one soon, because I do tend to see this as becoming a bit of a trend, especially you know, taken up by the mass market publishers. So this one was an indie deck. It is now mass market by Hay House. I absolutely love this deck. It's very beautiful, objectively beautiful when it comes to the aesthetics of it. I really love the combination of colors. I also love the art style. It is modern, as you can see, but it is a modern take that feels familiar. It feels very daily. It feels very us. It feels, you know, if I look at my life, if I look at my friends, if I look at the world that I know that feels familiar to me, this is pretty much a deck that I can see every day. I can see these people every day. I have a multi-ethnic family, so obviously there are cards that remind me, for example, of my sister-in-law and my nieces and my friends. And so this is something that feels very me, very us. As I was saying, this is probably replacing, or this has been replacing in my staple deck, the Light Seers Tarot, but I don't have the mini edition of this one. As I said, I don't even know whether we do have a mini available. If we do, or it will be made available in the future, I will be sure to buy it, because this will be the deck that I will take with me whenever I'm traveling, or even, you know, I take it in my purse, and if I go catch up with my friends and they ask me for a reading, I'll be very happy to use this one. For now, I actually don't, unless I'm at home, because it's just not very practical to put in your purse, to be honest. I don't have that big of a purse, so it wouldn't fit. But in any case, really absolutely lovely. I love reading with it. I love looking at the cards, looking at the characters, feeling them, you know, to be so familiar with me. And it is one of my staple decks. Let's have a look at what else I call my staple decks. And it's the Gentle Tarot. This is an indie deck, but it has been available for years. There's actually a couple of versions of this deck. Now, ironically, there is a mini version available of this deck, but I don't have it. Maybe one day I will acquire that one, and this will become even more staple in the sense that I will take it with me when I go away. I don't know whether I do need to introduce this deck. It's by Mary in the Sky. It is very well known. It is one of those decks that the name is perfect. You know, sometimes you feel like there's no other way to describe this deck. Obviously, it's called the Gentle Tarot, and it is just a very fitting name for the vibes of this deck. It is very beautiful. I really love the combination of colors that has been chosen, but I also love the art style. It's a very soft, very kind, very gentle kind of art style, and generally speaking, the vibes of this deck, I always like to say, or to explain it this way, this is not one of those decks that actually shies away from telling you the truth. You still have the really strong, powerful cards like the Tower, and it is very eloquent in expressing the message behind it. This is not a deck that doesn't tell you the truth, but it is one of those decks that it does tell you the truth, but in such a way that it doesn't hurt you. So it is gentle. And even this card, for example, the Ten of Thunder, so Thunder is the Suit of Swords that has been renamed. And you can definitely see how this deck works. It's a very powerful deck, very deep when it comes to the meanings. The readings that it gives are absolutely powerful, fantastic, and right to the point. I do appreciate the evolution of this deck. For example, I know that this is a first edition, so obviously, you know, it was the very first iteration of this deck, but I know that after this there has been a couple of editions where, for example, you can choose between alternative cards for the lovers, for example. So it is a very beautiful deck, and it does have a lot of really positive kind of vibes, and I really love it. This is, as I was saying, so this one is obviously the very first edition, but there's a second one where you have two different, or even three, I'm not entirely sure, but there is a like non-gender specific kind of lovers card that you can use if you so wish. And this is the card that is on the box, which is actually the Two of Thunder, which is very unusual. If you look at any deck that has been printed and where the creator has used one of the cards as an image for the box, you will notice that most of the time it's either the Star card or perhaps the Nine of Cups. But it's very rare that there's the Two of Thunder. Because it's a very specific card, and sometimes it talks to us about being stuck between a rock and a hard place and not really having the energy to move on, but also not having the necessary information. Most of the time the person is blindfolded. In this case, you know, this person is in the, well, at the bottom of the ocean, or at least it looks like it, because we can see a seal here, and these are algae, and there's fishes as well. But there is this sense of peace at the same time. So there is this sense of stillness and being unable to move, but there's also a sense of protection that comes when looking at this card. And this is what I mean. So you'll still get the sense of being stuck, or the stillness that comes from that card, but at the same time it's not expressed in a negative way. So that's one of the reasons why I actually like this deck. And the next deck, or the next couple of decks actually, are staple decks for me, because these are decks that I always use whenever I feel like I have to do some self-worth kind of work within myself. And one has been acquired by me a long time ago, and one is a recent acquisition, but it quickly became one of my staple decks in my practice. So I'm talking about the Self-Love Tarot by Hannah Tricoire, or sorry, this is the way in which the name is spelled, so I'm not entirely sure that I'm pronouncing it correctly. This is an incredibly powerful deck. I have to say that when I was looking at it at the beginning, I wasn't entirely sure that this would have worked for me. But then when I finally felt like it was the right time to acquire this deck, I really kicked myself for not getting it earlier. It is an incredibly powerful deck. And as I said, it is all about self-love. So it's about self-worth. It's about gaining back the sense of confidence. Now, before I show the cards, I have to say that there's nudity in this deck. However, like I always like to say, it's not weaponized. It's not an aggressive kind of nudity. It is just showing you what the female, mostly, body looks like. And it's a way of saying this is what we are, this is who we are, and this is what we look like. There's nothing judgmental about this. So it is a very strong deck, as I was saying, because it really does give me the possibility to stay in tune with myself, or get back in tune with myself, because more often than not, I do crave this kind of work when I feel that there's something off in myself, in my thoughts perhaps, or in the way in which I relate to my psyche and my body, so my mind and my body and my soul. I really like using it when, perhaps also in the evening. I don't know whether it's something that is common to anyone else, but this is one of the decks that I prefer when I'm actually winding down from a busy day, because it does set the mood for relaxation and acceptance. So I feel like acceptance is the key word here, because it does make you feel like you're in the right spot of mind to accept whatever the message is. And like I was saying about the Gentle Tarot, this is one of those decks that hides the truth. It does still tell you what the message is in a very clear way, but at the same time, you will see that it's a very kind of message. It's a deck that really expresses a lot of compassion. And since I want to look up at compassion as to be my guide, this is one of the decks that I use also when I feel like I'm lost and I need some kind of direction. So it's a very beautiful deck. I do use it for clients readings as well, but I don't start with it. So if the client is asking for it, so of course I use it, but it's not one of the decks that I actually recommend for a certain type of reading, unless it's a very self-worth kind of reading. Then I do recommend this one. If I'm asked for it, of course, I'm happy to use it. And the other deck that I wanted to show you, which for me, acts in the same kind of space in my practice, is the Guardian Angel Tarot. This is an older version, so you will it still has the name The Ring Virtue and Radley Valentine, her son, on the box. It is an older version. I don't think this deck is still in print. Not even the version with just Radley Valentine's name on the box. I believe that is gone out of print. Originally was produced by Hay House. This is a deck that has been very helpful, very consoling, it feels like a hug. And I have to say that this is not... So remember when I was making a distinction between a deck that doesn't hide the truth but tells you the truth in a very compassionate way? This deck sometimes actually hides the truth. So why would I want to use it? And why do I actually see this deck as a staple deck for me? Well, there's a very strong reason behind it. This is a deck that I use when I feel really blue, when I feel really down, when I feel like I really need a hug, when I feel like no matter what, I need a positive message. No matter what the truth is, I need it to come to me in a positive way. And I have no other deck in my collection that does that 100%. There are decks that go very close to that. There are decks that I imagine... I was talking with one of my tarot friends. I was talking about the Inner Child Tarot the other day, the one that has really big cards, and we were talking about the Seven of Wands and the fact that there's absolutely not even an inspiration based on RWS symbology in that card. It talks about the Seven of Swords as a healing card thanks to the back flowers, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate a different take on the RWS, or a completely different system altogether. Not when it's mixed up though, because if you talk about other cards following the RWS and then you go off on a tangent for one card, then it does create a bit of a dissonance. But that one goes very close, but it's not as positive as this one. And let me tell you, so if you have someone you really care about If you, I'm talking about, for example, you have a child, sometimes you feel like you have to lie out of love and out of protection. And I feel like this is a deck that personifies that spirit of accepting to lie to someone you love just because you want to protect them. I know that we can discuss about whether it's the right thing to do or not. There's different schools around that, and I don't have children, so I don't feel like I should have any voice in the matter. What I can tell you is that sometimes I actually need someone to lie to me and tell me that everything's going to be okay. Not always, it's only 1% of the time. But when I hit rock bottom and there's absolutely nothing that can go worse than what it actually happened, I feel like I kind of need a pick-me-up message. I kind of need a hug. I kind of need someone. I know deep down that if I pull a Three of Swords, I know that the message cannot possibly be positive. But at the same time, I need to hear it. I need to hear something positive. I'm just going to read the Six of Thoughts because it is the Six of Swords, obviously, and I just want to give you an idea. If you're not familiar with this deck, I just wanted to give you a bit of an idea of how this deck works. So peaceful times are on the horizon. You see what's doing here? The message is that, you know, yeah, right now you're going through something tough. But it doesn't start with that. It tells you, look ahead because there's something really peaceful. The storms have passed, which is not entirely true when it comes to the Six of Swords. You're still going through the storm. But it tells you, no, the storms have passed. And now you can see that your destination is within sight. The stress in your life will begin to fade away, allowing for happier times. It may be necessary to take a journey over water to another country. So you see how this works? It kind of implies that you're still in danger, or that you still have to do something. The journey is not over, but it wants to bring your attention to the fact that there is something really positive just around the corner. And so I really like it. I really like the approach, the idea, and how this is actually making me feel. That's what I like about it. I like the way in which it makes me feel. It makes me feel that I'm hopeful. It makes me feel that I need to look ahead. It makes me feel that I can be positive. And I really do. I really need a deck like this. So this is the Three of Swords, and I just wanted to read something out of this one. So loving angels surround you to heal and comfort you. The sadness you feel will fade away in time, and then you'll be able to see clearly how important this situation has been for your spiritual growth. Take the time you need to forgive yourself and others so that you can embrace the future with joy. I mean, to think that they would use a word like joy in the Three of Swords is unthinkable, but at the same time, you can see why this message is actually really resonating with pulling the Three of Swords or the Three of Thoughts, like in this case. So I don't know, what do you think about this deck? I know what DV has done, and obviously I am not going to discuss that. I mean, she had, whether she was right or not is none of my business. What I do appreciate is that this deck is giving me what no other deck can. And as I said, it's I don't know, why should I call it one of my staple decks? Because this is the deck that I always use when I am in that space of mind where I really need even a lie, but I need to feel better. But it's also a staple deck because it is the only one that actually I can use to get just that. So there's, as I said, there's other decks that go near that kind of action, that kind of helpful thoughts and messages, but this is 100% so. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this deck, and if there's another deck that really has this kind of idea and carries out 100%. And let's see, what else have I got here? Okay, so now we're going to talk about a combination of 3 decks. So let me just zoom out because we're gonna need a bit more room. And the reason why we're talking about 3 decks is because these 3 decks, I always tend to use them together, and I absolutely love the work that we can do with that. So when we're doing with my clients, we're doing shadow and light work, I'm actually using these 3 decks together, and it's a very powerful reading. So I'm talking about the Soul Mirror Oracle by Sunshine Connolly, and the artwork is by Anna Novas. And by the way, Anna has just released a new tarot deck with this same, let's say, art style. I believe it is printed by Blue Angel as well, which is the same printer as the Soul Mirror Oracle. I don't know whether it's available outside of Australia yet. Blue Angel is based in Australia, and sometimes they do release decks in Australia first, contrary to Rockpool, which has an international kind of launch. But it will be available soon, I imagine. And so I paired them up with the True Black and the Ephemera Tarot, both by the same author, Arthur Wang. And I have to say that I use these 3 in a very specific way, which I'm going to show you. So I don't even know if I have enough room. Let me see. So you will see that this is the Soul Mirror Oracle, and you will see that it's a very specific, unique, I would say, deck, because it does show you a very lovely image. By the way, this is a very lovely deck. I absolutely love the images. The art style is very powerful, but it's also very eloquent, very intuitive as well. Then you will notice that there is a keyword at the bottom, or a title, let's say, and then there's also a couple of keywords. But generally speaking, when you see more than a keyword in a deck or in a card, you will see that they are very similar in meaning. So it's just synonyms, it's just 2 different ways to say or express the same concept. But in this case, it's actually the opposite. So in this case, when we're looking at the title of this card, which is uncertainty, the keywords I will find at the bottom are, on the one hand, doubtful, and on the other hand, confident. And so you will understand now why I tend to use this deck together with what I call a shadow deck, which is the True Black, and what I call a light deck, which is the Ephemera Tarot. So doubtful will be the shadow part of the uncertainty that, you know, will see me using the True Black tarot, and confident is the light work that will see me using the Ephemera Tarot. But what I can do is, I'm just going to pull a card. I'm just going to give you an example. So I'm just going to pull a card. Very easy kind of reading. It's a sample reading. Now, if you have watched my channel for any length of time, you will know that there is no such a thing as a sample reading. I don't know why, but I always tend to channel some kind of energy or another. So I'm expecting this to be a very powerful reading, because that's the way I do it all the time, even when I don't want to. So let me just pick a card, and we'll see this one, awareness. So let me just pull it up and show you. So awareness, in this case, that is the title of the card, and you see it here. You see the image, it's very beautiful as always. And then it's got as keywords for the shadow side, we got foolish, and for the light side, we got conscious. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna pull it here. And then I'm gonna pull a card from the Ephemera Tarot for that will resonate, or that, and it's gonna give me a perspective to read the light side of awareness, so conscious or consciousness. So I'm just gonna pull a card from this deck, as I was saying. Okay, so I've been shuffling. Let's have a look. I don't have much room to fan the deck out, but I'm just gonna pull a card like that. Okay, so we've got the Knight of Pentacles, so I'm just gonna put it here because then I won't have enough room. And then I'm going to pull a card from the True Black Tarot, and this will be the way in which I will read the shadow part of this deck, of this card, sorry. So this is the True Black Tarot. It is very similar to the Ephemera when it comes to the art style. However, it does not have the same let's say, renaming of the cards. So the ephemera comes with a very beautiful renaming of the majors, for example. So there are differences between the two decks. Let me just shuffle quickly, and then we're just gonna pull a card. Okay, so let's see, what do I want? I want this one here, and I'm just gonna put it here. This is, oh well, there you go. So we have just talked about the Two of Swords, so I'm just gonna put it here. So when it comes to this reading, what I need to do is this. I need to look at the card. First of all, I need to just get my intuitive juices going and understand what we're talking about here. So we're talking about awareness, we're talking about knowing things or doing things with intention, and also manifestation. Awareness can be seen on the shadow side as foolish or foolishness. It could be a foolish awareness, and then, you know, it refers to the Two of Swords. Why or how can I read the Two of Swords in the sense of foolish awareness? Because I don't necessarily know what I'm doing. The Two of Swords is a card that tells me that I don't necessarily have all of the information that will be necessary for me in order to move on or take a side, make a choice, you know, take a direction, for example. It is the card of feeling stuck simply because you don't know if you're taking the right path. So when awareness becomes foolish is because you want to lie to yourself and tell you that you know what you're doing, you actually know where you're going, when you don't even have a clear idea of what's in front of you because you're blindfolded. So that is a way to read the shadow meaning of the word awareness, by associating the keyword foolish with the Two of Swords. When instead awareness is to be read as a light side, I'm looking at the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is the archetype of the soldier. So it's the person that actually follows the orders. It's the person that knows exactly what they're doing simply because someone else has told them or has been showing them the way. And the way in which we actually read the light side of awareness by associating the keyword conscious or consciousness to the Knight of Pentacles is because we need to understand what's in front of us. We are aware of what we're doing simply because someone has given us a manual, one-on-one, of what we need to do, how we need to do it, in what time, with what deadline. It is the opposite of going ahead blindfolded. We absolutely have an entire bird's eye view of everything that is in front of us. We know what to do, when to do it, etc., etc. So as you can see, this is a very powerful way of using these three decks together. It is something that I've been doing for months, and I have acquired a certain dexterity in reading these cards together. I believe that it is a very strong kind of reading. It always gives out really, really deep and thoughtful messages that generally speaking I take with me for a while. I journal about them, I meditate about them, but I really like to use these two this way together, these three obviously together. So these are all my staple decks, and whilst this is by no means a new video in the sense that I've shown you my most used decks before, I think that because I actually change, I evolve, and with it I evolve my practice as well. Maybe once a year I should actually be doing this tag. If you want to pick up this tag and show me your VR, I'll be more than happy to watch it. But for now, have a great day.